Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm a creative, a rare disease advocate, and a third-generation carrier of adrenoleukodystrophy, or ALD. I offer a unique perspective in that I grew up knowing of my carrier status from a very early age. And because of that, I understood the repercussions of what being a carrier could have on a family. We believe my grandmother on my mom's side was the beginning of the ABCD1 mutation. She had 9 children, 4 of them being carriers. My mom was one of them. My mom then had 3 children of her own, all of us presenting different versions of ALD. Here's the thing, no one in my immediate family knew about ALD. It wasn't until my siblings and I were born that my mom found out she was a carrier, because there was no such thing as newborn screening for ALD at that time. As I mentioned, all 3 children had varying presentations of the disease. My eldest brother had cerebral ALD, my other brother now has adrenomyelin neuropathy, and for me, I'm an asymptomatic carrier of ALD. When I say I offer a unique perspective, it's because I witnessed a lot in my childhood. My parents went through great lengths to keep my brother alive, financially, physically, and emotionally. For as long as I could remember, my eldest brother was sick. I remember him being bedridden without the ability to play. I remember many of my after-school evenings were spent going to and from Sick Kids Hospital to visit my brother. I remember the closets full of oxygen tanks and medical supplies because our house was turned into an ICU. I remember the kind nurses who became like family because my brother needed 24-hour care. I remember the resentment built up between my parents. I remember all the sounds of the ventilator, the heart rate monitor, the suction machine, the backup generator. I remember how deafening the silence was when my brother passed. I remember the pain that my parents felt, that I felt. I remember being 12 years old at his funeral. I wish I didn't have to remember. I wish I had a normal childhood with happily married parents and 2 brothers who I had strong bonds with. I wish I didn't have to go to therapy for uncovering all my suppressed emotions. I wish I didn't have the fear of repeating the cycle. I know technically there's the option of IVF or adoption, but that doesn't matter. The damage within me is so strong. The idea of having my own children, for a lack of better words, is repulsive. And let me be clear, I don't hate children, they're just not for me. Honestly, I always wondered why I hated my classmates when they acted disruptive and childish. I know now it's because I was jealous. They got to be kids while I had death knocking at our door every month, looking to take my brother from us. Until he finally did. Adults would always say that I was mature for my age, and I thought that was a compliment until I realized in therapy that it meant I couldn't be a kid with everything that was going on in our household. I also saw how much of a burden my siblings and I were to my parents. I can't explain to people how difficult it is to feel guilt for being alive. My parents sacrificed so much for us, and for that I'm grateful. But when I'm asked why I don't want children, how do I explain the lifelong trauma that impacted my family due to this rare disease? Why do I constantly need to justify my decision to be child-free? What I struggle with the most is with having to navigate the healthcare system with my diagnosis. Whenever I have a follow-up with the metabolic clinic, they always ask me if I'm thinking of having children given I'm childbearing age. But it feels disheartening when I have to say no over and over again. Instead of being repeatedly asked, I wish they'd just let me come to them if I felt any different. But guess what? I've been thinking of this since the death of my brother. That's 20 years. And nothing is different. I feel like I'm being disrespected because I have my reasons and I shouldn't need to defend my choices. Nothing can change my past, so I'm not going to change my mind even if they think I will. And yeah, I understand why they ask me, it's their job. but a little more empathy would be appreciated. I've endured a lot growing up, and I know I'm fortunate enough not to be physically affected by the disease, but emotionally, I'm a mess. Even with all the work I've put in through hours of therapy, my decision hasn't wavered. I'm often asked if I would have preferred to have learned about my diagnosis later on in life instead of in my childhood. The truth is, I don't know. I don't know life any other way. Would I have been constantly wondering if I had the disease, knowing it exists within my family? I would have had encountered different anxieties than the ones that I experienced. And I know diseases shouldn't define us, but this has been a huge part of my life and my identity. I've made deliberate choices because of how early I knew, and that also gave me time to grieve. Now, with all of that being said, finding community has been immensely important in this time of turmoil. Having a support group who understands me in what I've been through and what I have in store for my life takes a huge weight off of my chest. I don't feel isolated anymore. There's almost this instant bond when I meet someone within the community, not having to explain all of this because they have similar heartaches or obstacles breaks down barriers for deeper connection, and it's amazing. And my partner has been incredibly loving and healing for me. I just know that I'm not alone in this. And speaking of community, I'm thankful that I've found ways to give back. Sharing my story isn't easy, but it's necessary for people to know the impacts of rare diseases like ALD. I can be a voice for those who never got the chance to speak. And I may not be physically experiencing symptoms, but I'm fully committed to giving support to those who are and their families. I will always be an advocate on their behalf. On top of that, I find it fulfilling that I can use my creative skills to elevate brands in the rare disease space through design and marketing. Plus all the various fundraising initiatives I've organized and participated in to collect funds and spread awareness. I love that my contributions can make a difference. I want to make my brothers and my parents proud of the work that I do. With every day that I'm still here, I hope to make the world a little better. Thanks for listening to my story. I'm Olivia, and I'm proud to be rare.